Okay, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah. So you people have seen the previous video lectures, whichever I have sent on neural networks.
Yes.
So did
sir.
you people? Yeah, fine. So in this class, what I will do is I will quickly refer to the overview of all neural networks, starting from neuron through slides. Okay, and I will discuss some practical aspects of neural networks. Let us start the class. Yeah. Good morning to all. Let us resume back to our video lectures on machine learning for image processing. Let us continue our discussion on neural networks. So this video lecture will be an overview of neural networks discussion, starting from introduction, theory, and implementation aspects. I will be referring to the practical aspects of designing neural networks in this lecture. I will also be discussing on the backpropagation and other the methods that we have seen for training the neural networks. So you are free to ask any questions while I discuss the slides. And what I would suggest you people is to stop me and quickly ask your doubts whenever you have. Because I will be scanning through the slides with very minimal details or the complementary details that I need to mention on a particular slide. Hope you are able to see the slides.
Yes. sir.
Yeah. So neural networks are one class of supervised classification methods. But do you know for like what other applications neural networks can be used? So if you know, you can quickly tell. They are used for classification. Okay, if you have face recognition problem wherein you want to classify several classes of faces, or if you want to recognize digits, or if you want to recognize human, non-human, or any cats, dogs, or different images, class of images, you can apply that. So that's the straightforward application of neural networks. In addition to that, neural networks can also be used for optimization, That means if you have some input and output variables, if you don't know what function that maps optimally the input and output variables, you can apply neural networks, train neural networks to perform the task. So they can also be applied in the context of regression, in the sense that to map a continuous output variable to a features of the different samples. And they can also be used in several other applications, like bringing association or filling the gaps that are missing, okay, in the data, and so on. Okay, I will not be discussing more details on this, but this is just to give you an overview. And among the neural networks, we have been discussing on the feed-forward neural networks. And there are different other class of neural networks referred to as self-organizing neural networks, recurrent neural networks, and few others. And the algorithm for training or learning a neural network so far we are discussing is error backpropagation algorithm. As you have seen, we have quantified the error between the expected output, desired output, and the obtained output. And that error we have differentiated or backpropagated to adjust the weights of some prior layers. So that adjustment of the weight elements through backpropagating the error is referred to as error backpropagation algorithm. So though I have not specifically introduced the name, we have seen that we have been following that the gradient descent is the principle for updating the weights. And for gradient descent, you need the output error. We need to see the change in the weights, how much does it reduce the output error, and based on that we will see that the weight adjustments are taken care, and that is referred to as backpropagation algorithm. Okay, so I will be skipping some of these slides here, but you are free to ask me or interrupt me after a while. I will give you a pause in between. After a while, you can, during that time, you can interrupt me. They can be applied not only for the classification applications, they are applied for wide other range of applications, like ranging from weather prediction to stock market prediction. So they can be used for estimation, that is estimating the output variables, or finding out the output class, or predicting the output variable. In sense that in stock market or weather, the problem is to predict the next instant what is the price, or what is the weather, how is the weather condition. Okay, so they can also be used for quantization and so on. So typically what we are doing through neural networks is to find a classification boundary or a decision boundary. That decision boundary directly we are arriving at without looking at the class densities is through a kind of learning the mathematical form of the decision boundary. Okay, so that can be a linear form or it can be a non-linear form that connects the inputs, that separates the different class samples, right? So if you want to perform linear decision boundary, if you want to come up with linear decision boundary, then how many neurons are required? In case if you want to, one neuron is good enough, right? And if you need non-linear decision boundaries, then what do we need?
Network of neurons.
Network of neurons. Very good. And along with in the network of neurons, what is the essential element or what is the essential step that will enable us to come up with the non-linear decision boundary? Can one of you pinpoint out based on the discussions we had? Say you have a neuron consists of several inputs. Okay, weighted accumulation.
Activation function.
Yeah, right. Activation function or the non-linearity. Non-linear function that maps input to output at each neuron. Put together different activation functions, there is a non-linearity introduced in the neural network, and that will enable us to come up with a non-linear decision boundary. Okay, they can also be used for function approximation, prediction. Okay, at the next instance, what's the value? If you want to perform prediction, the way you give inputs and outputs is different. That's all. So what you give is, for estimation, you keep training Tn as the output variable when you give T1 to Tn as the input variables. Okay, so you want to estimate, if you want to do prediction, you give these as input variables. That means up to here as input variables, and this as output variable. These are inputs. Okay, and this is output. That's only the way you do prediction through neural network. Right? These are input I say, this is output. Okay, for prediction. For if you want to do estimation, then what you give is, you keep giving noisy inputs T1 to Tn, and this is unnoisy or the like clean output Tn hat is what we want to decide output is the output that we want to get from the neural network. Okay, that is referred to as estimation. Estimation means estimating a observed value to true value. Okay, so Tn plus noise may be in observation, and I want to estimate Tn. Okay, that is estimation. Prediction means I have information up to Tn. I want to predict at the next instance. That is prediction. Okay. So it can also be used for clustering. Unsupervised classification can be done through self-organizing map kind of neural networks. Okay, it can also be do for association, that is filling the gaps, for control, okay, optimization, and so on. As discussed in these slides, the motivation for neural networks is from the biological neurons and biological network of neurons. As we discussed, human brain has millions of neurons and trillions of interconnections. Okay, and it's very complex, and the architecture is also not very clearly known, and it is complex. It's not like a feed-forward neural network that we are discussing. It's not as simple as that. Okay. So we have seen the model of neuron based on the biological neuron. Its relevance or its connection with the biological neuron is also discussed. So you can see that the synaptic strength that connects one information of one synapses to the other synapses, that is referred to as weight element. Okay, that is here weights as weights. And the summation that happens within the neuron cell body is through the summation that we have in the model. And the output is what is output in the axon of a neuron, right? So if you, do you have any questions on the model of neuron? You can quickly ask. Okay. So then what we have seen is, given this model of neuron, what we want is to train the weights of that connects each of the inputs to the output. Okay. And that is done through what rule? So how did we fix or learn the weights of this neuron? Can one of you quickly tell?
Gradient descent.
Right. We use gradient descent to train it, and the one which uses gradient descent to train them is with the cost function that we have like discussed is linear perceptron. Okay, this is typically a neuron, and this is the output that comes out of the neuron. Okay, and then the error we quantify as the samples which are classified to different class rather than to the desired class. Okay, how do we calculate them? Just by looking at the output. This output, if it is thresholded, +1 means one class, -1 if we consider as second class. Then if the input samples are given with random weights, they need not get separated respectively to the class 1 and class 2. Whenever they are misclassified, we quantify the error, and we have seen that we minimize it through gradient descent. And this gradient descent rule essentially helps us to update the weights. Okay, I am moving on since this is well discussed in the previous classes. We have seen that it can solve only if the same samples are linearly separable. That means we can come up with the decision boundary through a single neuron, only for samples which are linearly classified, linearly separable. If the samples are not linearly separable like this, you cannot classify by any of the single linear line, and hence a single neuron is not sufficient to classify them. And hence we need a network of neurons. We have seen in the previous class, okay, a network of neurons with given weights. Okay, we can see through forward pass what will be the output variable for given input variables x1 and x2, right? And we have seen that if the weights and biases are properly set, then you will be able to classify the samples of XR problem, these two to one class and these two to another class. That is, we can come up with non-separable samples also well classified through a network of neurons. Since this is all revision, I am quickly moving on. If you have any questions, please ask me. This is what is sent to you in video lectures. We have calculated through forward pass. I hope every one of you know how to write the forward equations in a neural network. So it is a sum of, okay, xi w ji, okay, at net j, if you want to see what is the output at this location. Okay, so at this location, if you want to see the output, sorry, then we see the input from here, okay, to this neuron, and then we also see its bias. Put together wi wji xi summation over I plus bias will give me the output, net output here. That when sent through activation function will give me the output here. Hope this is clear to all. How to write the forward expressions in a given neural network with given weights. Okay, so there are several kind of activation functions. See, since we have derived also the learning of like neural network, how to learn the weights of neural network, you should be able to identify some important properties of activation function. That means which kind of activation function should we select in a neural network. Threshold activation function has been the one which we have been discussing. Okay, but is that only the ideal activation function, or are there any better activation functions? I will give you some suggestions for activation functions. Now we will see later what are important properties of activation function when we discuss on the learning of neural network. The other suggestion for activation function is, it's also threshold activation function. It is sign function or signum function. Okay, where you can see that if it is negative, instead of 0, we put -1 as the output of the activation function. And if it is positive, put the output will be 1. So through activation function, what we are doing, even though the input net values may be of very large range, ranging from -infinity to infinity, we are restricting the range of the output through activation function to a very smaller range or a defined range, predefined range, that is -1 to 1 here, or 0 to 1 earlier, right? And this is referred to as linear or ramp activation function. Okay, where you can see that it is 0 for negative, and in between 0 to 1 it is linear. Linear activation function is completely linear everywhere. Okay, in the sense that, as you can understand, complete linear means all whatever is input, what that comes as output. Okay, that's the linear activation function. And this is very well-known activation function, unipolar you can leave. This is referred mainly as sigmoid activation function. So if you have x as input, okay, net value as input, 1 by 1 plus e power minus net value as output is sigmoid activation function. Hope you are able to understand. In our notation, f net is equal to 1 by 1 plus e power minus net. Okay, so this is referred to as sigmoid activation function, right? And this activation function, if you see, if net value is -infinity, what is the f of net value? Can you people quickly tell? If net value is infinity, f of -infinity is equal to 1 by e power minus of -infinity, which is infinity, 0. Okay, so f of net is equal to 0 for net equal to infinity, whereas if net is if net is -infinity, if net is plus infinity, then f of net will be how much? 1, right? And if net is 0, that means the net value after summation of weights and inputs is 0, then it is 0.5, right? So, and this has a smooth shape like this. Okay, where it smoothly comes from like increases from 0 to 1. Okay, with hitting 0.5 at the origin of x-axis, net value. Okay, what for this is all net value for us, and this is f of net. Hope you people are able to understand what I'm showing in the slides. Okay, this is referred to as tan hyperbolic activation function widely. It can also be referred to as bipolar sigmoid activation function, but more elegantly tan hyperbolic activation function. This can also be written as f of net is equal to, okay, 1 minus e power minus net value by 1 plus e power. Are both same? Whichever I have written in the bottom and which is there in the here in the yellow box, are they same or not? Except leaving lambda, are both same or not?
Same, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, both are same. Okay, so what is the range of this activation function? So that means if input net value is minus infinity, okay, then this have f of net is equal to, goes to what? -1. Okay, so this the difference between sigmoid and this one is just that it ranges to -1 to 1. That ranges, sigmoid activation function ranges from 0 to 1. That's only the difference, right? And this is preferred in some cases, and this is widely used in neural networks. Okay, so this is there are some recent activation functions people have introduced. This is referred to as ReLU activation function, linear, like rectified linear unit. You people, especially electrical engineers, are you people able to connect this to any of the unit that you have seen in your electrical or electronics engineering?
Diode.
Yeah, no, it's like diode. So it will pass only in positive direction and doesn't pass in negative direction. So this is very well known and widely used activation function. This is linear in positive side and 0 on negative side. Okay, so this has very unique advantages. In fact, the neural networks were in boom when they were introduced. Say in 60s they were introduced. After that, they slowly gained interest and importance in several fields, up to some 70s or something like that, and there is a gap. And again with say in 80s, they were widely applied in different fields, and after that there is a big gap in applying the neural networks. So the reason was, if you train with a lot of data or with a lot of number of layers, they will overfit. That means their performance doesn't increase further. The reason was, if you increase number of layers, the error which you are having at the output layer will not effectively propagate enough to adjust the weights of the earlier layers of the neurons. That is, in close to the input layer, there are, like when you are back propagating from a last layer, if you are back propagating through 10 layers, okay, there is a great reduction in the contribution of the error that happens at the earlier layers. So that gave that means the weight update were not effective in a deep neural networks, and because of that there was not great improvement of neural networks compared to other conventional methods such as support vector machines and so on. But later, after introducing this activation function, this rectified linear unit activation function, this has a special feature that the gradient doesn't reduce even if you back propagate over large number of layers. In other words, the gradients doesn't diminish, okay, even if you back propagate over large number of layers. Okay, so we'll discuss that at some later point of time, probably in this course or probably next semester course. But that is the breakthrough to design deeper neural networks, and subsequently through outbreak of this convolution neural networks, which can directly take two-dimensional or multi-dimensional data for feature extraction, these neural networks has gained very great importance again in 2000s and so on. Okay, so this is slightly different version of rectified linear unit activation function, which you can see that it is slightly it's leaky ReLU, as the name indicates. It leaks in the negative direction and yellows linearly in the positive direction. So I will leave the discussion on the other activation functions for time being. Okay, so there are different architectures, as we said. When we have several neurons, how do we place them also matters. So we can place them in feed forward way. Each of the earlier layers connecting all to the next layers. So that is very well known and widely used architecture. And under that we have single layer anyway, and then multi-layer perceptron or multi-layer artificial neural networks, or the feed forward neural networks with multi-layers are widely used. Okay, so and then there are here in the feed forward neural networks, you can observe that there is no feedback from any of the later layers to the earlier layers. Okay, so but whereas you can also have some networks having feedback, and there are some recurrent neural networks which will have connections between the layers. Okay, not necessarily to the subsequent layer. Okay, so I am skipping the details which were discussed very well earlier. So within the neural networks, there are other strategies that we can apply. That is, okay, other than supervised and unsupervised learning, we can also apply reinforcement learning for training the neural networks. Okay, we can see that we teach with examples because we learn with large number of examples. Okay, I'm skipping the slides which are not important to discuss now. This is the neural network we have seen, wherein we have input neurons with D input neurons, each of them given x1 to xd. So how do we decide the number of input neurons? Can one of you tell quickly? How do I decide?
Number of features.
Yeah, this number of input neurons is equal to number of features, D features. Okay, and then how do you decide the number of output neurons?
Number of classes.
Yeah, classes. This usually is the case. Number of classes determines the number of output neurons. And how do I determine the number of hidden neurons then? Determined by anyone of you want to make a guess? Okay, we will discuss that in case if that is not very clearly coming out here. So we take the D input neurons, D for D features, and C output neurons for C classes. And then there are some obtained obtained outputs for the initialized weights. Okay, so how do we initialize weights? That is also one of the important aspects to discuss, because see, the number of weight elements to be adjusted are very high. When we discuss, like when we have a neural network having, say, for example, 500 features, okay, as input, and when the hidden neurons NH is equal to say 100, and when you have the output neurons equal to 10, in such case, how many weight elements are there to be adjusted? Can one of you quickly tell? How many weights are to be adjusted from input to the hidden neuron?
51,000 plus the biases.
Oh, 51,000?
50,000.
50,000. Okay, 50,000 weights. Okay, WJI plus biases. Okay, number of weights and number of biases. How many?
100. Every
100,
one per.
Okay, for each of the hidden neuron, you need one bias. Okay, so you have 100 biases. Okay, so these many are to be adjusted. Similarly, from here to here, the hidden neuron to the output neuron, how many we have to, how many weights are to be set or length?
1,000.
1,000. Okay, plus how many biases?
10.
Okay, so roughly we need to learn 51,000. Okay, some 110 weights and biases. So this is huge number of weights and biases we want to learn just from a single cost function that we have, right? So it's in fact, if we are looking at, we are trying to learn 51,000 variables, means if we see the cost function is a function of WJI and WKJ and biases. So you can look at this in how many dimensions? See, if I look at a say function f of x1 comma x2, in how many dimensional space do I visualize this function? I need quick answers. In
3D space.
Yeah, 3D space with x1, x2 as inputs, and then f coming out as output. So essentially, f is varying in 2-dimensional space. Its output is coming in the 3rd dimension, correct? So essentially, now if I want to represent this j, I am adjusting I am making changes of each variable. Okay, I am trying to see the output variable j in how many dimensional space? Roughly 51,000 dimensional space. Right? So I am adjusting in 51 dimensional space and trying to figure out an optimal j. You understand the complexity of the problem or not? Is it clear? So if I
Yes.
form a function of x1, x2, say x1, x2 minus x1 square, okay, plus 5 equal to 0, some function of this. If I say that this is the function, okay, and then if I want to do optimization of this function, okay, so then what I do? So I'm trying to, if you see in 3 dimensions of like the surface of f, then I'm trying to find out where the minimum for f exists or the value for the f function exists in x1, x2 space. Is that clear? That's what I'm trying to figure out. That is referred to as global minimum. Okay. So if I find out, for example, for x1, x2, okay, x1, x2, if I have a function, this is ideally, if this is to be Gaussian function, f of x1 comma x2, if I say that this is, okay, some quadratic function to make ourselves easily understand. So, okay, x1 whole square. Okay, if this is the function, where will this minimum of this function appears? Can one of you quickly tell?
2, 3.
2, 3. So you can say that this function will have a, okay, this function will have a minimum at this location. Okay, this is the minimum of function, minimum of f, right? With respect to x1, x2. So I will visualize it in 2-dimensional space. I am trying to find out a global minimum for this. What do I mean by global minimum? If I look for all x1, x2s, this is the minimum for this function f. And it not necessarily be the case. Say if I have even if I have a quadratic function, if it is not of circular shape, say I may add 2 quadratics. Okay, this is 1 quadratic, and I may have actually this alpha times whatever. Okay, x1 minus 1 whole square plus x2 minus 1 whole square. Okay, if I add these two together, then it is sum of 2 quadratics. So it will have now how many minimas? It can have 2 minimas. One can be global minimum, okay, which reaches to 0. And if I put alpha to some, like other can be, this also reaches 0 here, okay, because of the way we design, okay, but plus 2 or something if we put, okay, it may not even reach to 0, okay. So within this, okay, so we can design such that the minimas need not be same at the locations, at both the locations, right? So one is referred to as local minimum, and each of them are referred to as local minimum, but among them only one is referred to as global minimum. You people understand what I'm trying to tell here? Is that clear?
Yes,
okay.
sir.
So now if you consider a function in 51-dimensional space, 1000-dimensional space, how many local minimas may exist? Many local minimas may exist, not necessarily one local minima. Okay, like you are saying here, one local minima, one global minima here. Okay, if I somehow nicely make this function, okay, so you can have one local minima, one global minima here. Okay, whereas in this, you can have large number of local minima. Out of all these local minimas, you are not, the learning of neural network is aimed at what? You need to accomplish to reach the global minima. And however, the learning of neural network is not guaranteed to reach a global minima, because what you are doing is randomly initializing the weights and then adjusting them to move towards the minimum that is close to the, okay, the corresponding cost function, wherever you are at in the 51,000 dimensional weight vectors, you are moving from there to the minimum of j, correct? So it doesn't ensure the reaching out the global minima. Is this clear? However, proper initialization of the weights will enable you to traverse more better to the global minima. Okay, so and hence initialization of weights also matters. Is this clear or not?
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. So let's move on now. So we have seen first, after initializing weights randomly, we have seen how to write the forward equations. So hope all of you are familiar in writing forward equation. If I want to write y2 here, how do I write y2 quickly? One of you can tell. I need to take xi, all xi ranging from here to here. Okay, x1 summation over I equal to 1 to d. And they should be multiplied with what? W, ji, here it is 2i, right? Plus, what is the bias I should add? B2. Okay, now if I want to write general expression, I can write yj is equal to summation over, okay, W, ji plus xi plus bj. I equal to 1 to d. Am I correct? Okay, this is how we write. This value is referred to as net value. Anything are we missing here?
Wji into xi.
Okay, that's what I have written, right? Wj, oh sorry, plus I have put. Okay. Okay, wji. Okay, anything else I'm missing here?
Sir, F2.
Right. Okay. Okay, sorry. Wji into xi. Okay, this is all f. This has to be in, within this is net value, but this has to be put in activation function to get the output. Here also it has to be put in activation function, right? Okay, so similarly you can write the output equations. Okay, so you can also write here zk is equal to, can one of you quickly tell what is zk? I need some quick answer.
Wkj to yj plus b2.
Okay. W
Kj
jk kj, right?
into
So
y.
why we are writing wkj? We are noted following a standard notation. Okay, wkj into
yj plus bk.
yj plus bk.
Summation over j.
Summation over j, right? 1 to nh. Okay, fine. So, and when you do this, these outputs may not be equal to the actual outputs, okay, desired outputs. So there is an error. So error, how do I quantify the error now? Can one of you quickly tell how do I quantify the error? How do you
Zk
quantify the
minus
error?
tk.
Summation over
Zk minus tk.
tk minus zk whole square. Okay, where summation is over k1 to
C.
okay, and this usually is taken half to avoid the constants that comes out when we differentiate it. Okay, so this is the error expression. Okay, and where are w's involved in it? They're not directly seen here, but they're involved in, where are constants involved here? Where are w's involved here? Can one of you quickly tell?
In Zk.
They're in,
Zk and yj's.
right, zk and yj's, correct, very good. Okay, fine. So since these are clear, we will directly move on to the back propagation that we have done. So we have seen that again here, if we want to adjust any of these weight vectors, what we do is, what is the principle that we use? What is the principle that is used to land each of the weights in neural network?
Gradient descent.
Gradient descent.
Gradient descent only. Okay, this is the main principle that is applied in all the neural networks, not necessarily in neurons or neural networks, but also in convolutional networks and also in recurrent neural networks. Okay, so except that the way we apply is slightly different, but in each of the cases we use only gradient descent, most of the cases. Okay, so we have seen that if you want to adjust the weights wkz, we don't directly have the access in the J. So within the J, we have some parameter net K or Zk, which is function of Wkj. And hence what we will do is we apply the update like weight differential of J with respect to Wkj through a chain rule. Okay. And that chain rule will enable us to connect first term, okay, like through, and second term through net K. And this will, this is referred to a chain rule as we discussed. Okay, and we have seen the differential of each of these things. And we have seen that finally we arrive at the Wkj as equal to eta times this into this. Okay, so where this is the denoted as delta K and this is Yj. As I was discussing, I have mentioned that we have some special why we grouped like this is grouping all K terms, fine, but there is also special importance for this. See, if you see here, if I want to adjust the weight, okay, connecting, if you have in a neural network, what you have is this is the okay Zk output you have, okay, and there is a hidden neuron with output Yj here. Okay, so this is the connection we are speaking about. So if I am connecting the this is Wkj. If I want to adjust Wkj, what I'm using to adjust it is, you can see here, the input at the, okay, the input of this connection, that is Yj, this is input of the connection, okay, of this weight, connecting the weight, connecting the neurons, weight connecting the neurons. I'm using the input multiplied by what? Multiplied by error. Okay, error at where? Error at the this end. Okay, so input multiplied by error at the rear end. If you see here, this is the error delta K, because this dose A by, okay, do net K, okay, into this is essentially dose A by do net K, as you can see here. Okay, this is nothing but dose A by do net K. So what I'm using is essentially the input multiplied by error at rear end. Input at where? Input at the front end. Front end. Okay. So is this clear? This analogy, is this clear to you, or are you able to understand? So input here, okay, multiplied by error here is what I'm using to update the weight W here. Okay, that's what I have mentioned. Okay, let us see the same even in the weight update in the subsequent layers. See, as we have seen for weight update dose A by Wj, we have applied again chain rule. We have simplified it. Okay, after simplification and so on. Okay, we have finally written, okay, that's weight update in this form. Even if this weight update now, if you want, yeah. Please mute yourself if you are not discussing. Yeah, if you have any questions, you can ask. Right. So what we are doing even here is, okay, delta K into Xi. So now let us see again. This again, if you see this input. See what we are doing now. This is the hidden layer. Okay, this is Yj, and this is input layer. This is Xi. Okay, so this is the connection. In this input is Xi, and error here is what? Okay, error here is this, what we have written, delta Z. Okay, so delta Z is the error here. That means if you back propagate the error up to here, that is delta Z is nothing but dose A by do net J. Okay, if you calculate dose A by do net J, whatever you had. So in dose A by donut J. If you see here, this whole thing is whatever I have written here. This is delta C, right? So what essentially you are doing, you are multiplying for adjusting the delta WJI. I am using the error at the rear end multiplied by input at the front end. Okay, that's what is used for adjusting the weight, connecting weight. Is this clear or not? Okay, this analogy, if you see, this is used even if you do back propagation in large or deep neural networks. See, we have seen here through chain rule, back propagation in 2-layer network. See, you have seen that even to update the weights in the second layer, we have gone for several rounds of chain rule. Okay, and then finally updated here. And if you have a network having, okay, so 10 layers. Okay, this one single layer, okay, and second layer, okay, and then third layer, and then fourth layer, okay, and so on. Okay, if you have several layers of network, and if you want to do back propagation from here, if wherever you have J, to the initial layer, okay, so what you need to do, you have to apply the back propagation or chain rule, okay, through chain rule at each and every layer, and it is very tedious to update weights at the earlier layers. But if you use this, if you understand this principle, what we are essentially using is, if you want to update any weight here, you find out delta corresponding, okay, it's corresponding layer L multiplied by input at L minus 1, XL minus 1. Okay, product of that is W, okay, L, W, L comma L minus 1 is equal to simply delta L into X of L minus 1. Okay, this is what will be the weight update. Okay, this is how people do in deeper networks. Okay, we will discuss that more thoroughly or more detail in the subsequent courses also. So I may be offering in the next semester deep learning for computer vision or deep learning theory and applications course, because I think we see that given the timelines, okay, we will be able to discuss and conclude only up to the neural networks, and then probably I will discuss on the clustering aspects. So I may not discuss on CNNs to a more extent in this course. I will only introduce you CNNs to make understanding of them in forward pass and leave it there in this course. So few other aspects of designing the neural networks now we will discuss in this lecture before we conclude. So if you have any doubts or questions here, you can ask. Otherwise, I will move on to discussion on some practical or implementation aspects of neural networks. Feed forward neural networks. So any question here? Okay. See, we have discussed on the, we said that we will discuss on the properties of activation function. What kind of activation function is better? Say we have seen several possibilities for activation function. Which activation function F? Okay, what are the essential properties of activation function to qualify it as activation function, and which do we prefer? How should be F for applying in neural networks? Any suggestions on this? Anyone want to discuss here on any of the properties that are needed by looking at the equations that we had for back propagation?
It should be monotonically increasing.
Okay, it should be monotonically increasing. Why?
Because otherwise we can't properly quantify. We are basically taking a larger range of values and we are compressing it into a smaller range. So
Right.
it should be mapped properly.
Correct. It should be monotonically increasing. Correct. Because the input output is proportional, and there is no, like, by default there is no other guideline to have a different trend for the input to the neuron and outputs. It gives. Right. So any other properties
It
or
should be
suggestions?
differentiable.
It should be differentiable. Why it should be differentiable?
Because we are using f dash of it.
Yeah. So in each of the weight updates, we are using f dash. So it should be differentiable. to easily update weights. Right, very good. Any other properties? So usually what other properties they prefer is, see, we anyway want to do finally classification. So we want to limit the output range. That is one of the application in addition to non-linearity it has. Another important property that we have not explicitly written here is it should be non-linear. Okay, non-linearity is important property of activation function. Right, what is the other property? Fourth property it should have is it should have a saturation or limit the range. Okay, based on this, conventionally suggested activation function is sigmoid activation function. Okay, however, as I discussed, for deep neural networks, rectified linear unit is most suggested activation function. Right, these are only listed here, so I am skipping this. See, usually in neural networks, we divide the data a priori into training data, okay, testing data and validation data. The reason, as I mentioned, okay, so if we train with some particular data, if we have like, so 10,000 samples with us, okay, so if we train with all 10,000 samples and wait for new sample to come for testing, we don't know whether it works very well with the new sample or not, or unseen data or not. So what we do is, in the training phase itself, we divide this into, okay, some probably 60% for training, and then probably 20% for validation, and 20%, another 20% for testing. Okay, so with this, what the feasibility we have is, while training with the 60%, we keep testing with the validation data. These both are used in training. Okay, so and then this is, as mentioned, the validation will help us to see if it is on an unseen data with the training that we are going on, wherever the network gives lesser like error, in sense that the weights corresponding to this may be considered as final weights, rather than considering the weights at the final epoch of the training as the final weights, to freeze onto the model or to freeze onto the neural network. Okay, so at every instant of training, we have some set of weights. Okay, so which weights to take as the final weights? Usually you can consider to take W because it is giving lesser error on training data. But however, this is giving lesser error on unseen data, okay, on validation data. So this will have more generalization capability. Okay, so on the unseen test data, again, this is likely that this will give better accuracies than this one, these weight vectors or weight matrices or elements. Okay, so this is the procedure of training and testing the neural network. And when we stop the training, usually when the error doesn't, like, the number of epochs continue till the gradient of weights is close to 0. Okay, when the gradient of weights doesn't change, we can stop it. That is one procedure. Or we can a priori set the number of epochs or the iterations. Epoch means one pass over the whole data is referred to as one epoch. So if I present all these 10,000 samples to the network once, that is referred to as epoch. Epoch is close to now 10,000 iterations. Right? So you can also threshold on the error, j less than some value. There also you can stop the training. These are different procedures. And for establishing convergence, after convergence, we can look at the weights corresponding to the minimum on the validation set, take those weights as the freezing weights for the neural network. Okay, and then that may be used for testing new data. Fine. So we will stop the discussion here. Probably, I think we will discuss in the next class on the few other aspects. what I will do is, since the time is less for us, I will keep sending some of the recorded lectures. So especially for clustering, I will parallelly be posting some video lectures, recorded video lectures. So the plan is like this. So we have roughly 6 classes. Okay, so I'm thinking of one more class, okay, plus one more class on neural networks. So this is to help you to understand neural networks and convolution neural networks. So 2 classes for neural networks and convolution neural networks, and 2 classes for clustering. Okay, clustering, K-means clustering I will discuss, and then expectation maximization where I will discuss, and any other aspects of clustering. Okay, and 2 classes I may take for regression. Okay, with that we plan to conclude. So if I adjust in one of the class in any of these things, we will get one more class. Then that may be used for clarification of any of your doubts, or discussing on topics very briefly on any other topics that are not covered or discussed in this course. So I am stopping here. You can ask quickly any of you if you have any doubts or any suggestions or anything.
Sir, in this dou J by dou W dimension, do we have to consider biases also, sir?
Right. We have to consider bias also. I have not derived for biases. They are even simpler than what we do for weights. So I have not discussed. You were encouraged, and you are, in fact, you should do it. You have to find dou J by dou BK, dou J by dou BZ. Writing their forward equations.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks. And they will also be adjusted by gradient descent. Okay, to adjust the biases. Right. So any other questions? Right. So we will be sending one programming assignment on neural networks. That will be the final concluding programming assignment. Though we have given, I think, only one programming assignment so far, right? So overall, we have now 2 programming assignments. That's all. Okay, and then one more quiz we will put. That may be of say 40 minutes time or 30 to 40 minutes time. So that quiz is on neural networks, PCA and FLD. Okay. Yeah, that's all before the final exam. So any other and mini project, I would suggest you people to get ready. So I will send you a mail asking you to make 5 to 8 minutes video maximum. Okay, with 5 slides. Very crisply clarifying what giving the what you have done in the video presentation. So that we will listen and evaluate you people, because it's little difficult to make a common time for all of us. Okay, so that will be more convenient. You are suggested to upload that in a Google Drive, and we will listen to that and evaluate on your mini project work. Any questions or discussion? If you want, quickly ask or raise. Okay. Thanks then. So I think we don't have class this Wednesday, right? But I will be sending a video lecture mostly on neural networks and convolution neural networks. Then if you have any questions, we will discuss. Clustering also I will send. 2 video lectures I plan to send before this Friday. Okay. Thank you then.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.